The bill arrived in a black leather folder and landed beside my hand like it belonged there. $12,600. For a moment, I thought I had read it wrong. The private dining room at Bellwether House still glowed with candlelight. Empty wine glasses crowded the white tablecloths, and relatives were already slipping into coats, laughing about what a beautiful evening it had been. Then my mother, Linda, touched my shoulder and smiled at the room. Claire wanted to do something truly generous for us this year. Every face turned toward me. I was 38 years old, and I had spent most of my life cleaning up family problems before anyone else noticed them, but I had never agreed to pay for that dinner. My younger sister, Melissa, stood near the doorway in a cream dress, holding her purse. She looked surprised in exactly the way people look when they have practiced being surprised. "There's been a mistake," I said. My father's smile disappeared. "Don't start this now. I didn't book this dinner." Melissa gave a soft laugh. "Claire, we talked about this." "No, we didn't." The room changed. Conversations slowed. A cousin stopped halfway into his coat. My mother's fingers tightened on my shoulder. "Please don't embarrass us," she whispered, still smiling. "People have already eaten." That sentence told me everything. They were not confused. They were counting on the fact that I hated public scenes more than I hated losing money. Before I tell you what the manager revealed, let me know in the comments if your family has ever volunteered your money or time without asking. And subscribe if you believe silence is not permission. Because that bill was only the end of a plan that had started years earlier. I searched the folder for a signature page. There wasn't one. That mattered. I owned an event company, although my family described my work as helping with parties. I knew private dining contracts. I knew Bellwether House would never assign a 5-figure balance to someone who had signed nothing. Before I could ask for the manager, a woman in a navy suit approached. Elena Ruiz, the general manager, knew me through my company. She looked directly at me. "Ms. Harper, before anyone leaves, there is something you need to see." Melissa stopped moving. Elena lowered her voice. "Your name was not on the original reservation. Someone else signed the banquet agreement and left instructions about when you should receive the final bill." Behind me, the room went quiet. To understand why my family thought I would simply take out a card and rescue them, you need to understand the role they gave me long before that night. My father, Robert Harper, spent 32 years in regional sales. He was charming in public, impatient in private, and deeply invested in looking successful. My mother treated appearances like a second religion. Our home in Oak Brook was always spotless, the holiday photos coordinated, and every disagreement buried before guests arrived. Melissa was 4 years younger and always introduced as the creative one. She was stylish, emotional, and full of plans. When one failed, my parents said she had been brave enough to dream. I was the sensible one. It sounded like praise when I was young. It was not. Being sensible meant remembering bills, driving relatives to appointments, fixing problems, and staying calm when everyone else panicked. Melissa could arrive late with flowers, while I had spent hours preparing the room. My parents trusted me with responsibility, but saved their admiration for her. By the time Dad retired, money was tighter than they admitted. They still took expensive trips. Mom still hosted dinners designed to look effortless. Melissa had launched a luxury image consulting business that looked impressive online, but rarely produced steady income. I had built something stable, but I stopped sharing details because every achievement became either a comparison or a request. 7 years earlier, I founded Northline Events. We managed corporate conferences, charity dinners, and executive retreats across Chicago. I employed 12 people. My family still acted as if I spent my days choosing napkin colors. The anniversary mattered to Mom because 40 years of marriage was not just a milestone. It was proof that the Harpers were successful, united, and worth admiring. 2 months before the dinner, she called me. When a restaurant books a private room, she asked casually, who is technically responsible for the balance? The person who signs the agreement. And if someone else pays at the end? That has to be voluntary. There was a pause. Then she changed the subject. I barely noticed at the time, but with a $12,600 bill beside my hand, I remembered every word. and for the first time, I wondered how long my family had been planning to make my generosity look like consent. The first time I understood what sensible really meant in my family, I was 16. Dad's car needed a new transmission, and he told me he would repay the money if I used my summer savings to help. I had worked mornings at a bakery and evenings at a movie theater. That money was supposed to cover my first semester's books. 2 weeks after I handed it over, Melissa came home carrying a garment bag and talking about a dance competition in Florida. Mom called it an opportunity she couldn't miss. I never got the money back. When I asked Dad about it, he frowned as if I had insulted him. "You're stronger than your sister," he said. "Strong people don't keep score." That became the rule. I commuted to college because it was cheaper. Melissa rented an apartment near campus because Mom said she needed the full college experience. I helped care for our grandmother during her final year, while Melissa visited when someone reminded her. At family gatherings, everyone praised Melissa for being affectionate. No one mentioned who managed the medications, grocery runs, and late-night hospital calls. As adults, the pattern became more expensive. Melissa once forgot to pay the florist for our cousin's wedding after offering to handle the design. The florist threatened to remove the arrangements an hour before the ceremony. Mom called me from the church hallway. "Please fix it," she whispered. "We can't let Melissa be humiliated." I paid the balance. Later, people complimented Melissa's flowers. She accepted every word. At Dad's retirement party, I arranged the venue, corrected the catering order, built the slideshow, and stayed late when the bartender's invoice was wrong. During his speech, Dad thanked Melissa for making the whole evening special. I was standing near the kitchen doors with a clipboard in my hand. Melissa glanced at me and mouthed, "Don't be weird about it." I smiled because that was what I had been trained to do. By then, my family had learned something dangerous about me. I would rather solve a problem quietly than let everyone watch it fall apart. They mistook restraint for agreement. When Mom first mentioned the anniversary dinner, she said it would be small. Parents, daughters, Aunt Evelyn, and maybe 2 close couples. She asked for restaurant recommendations, and I sent 3 places with different price ranges. A week later, Melissa announced in the family group chat that she had taken over. "Let the creative daughter handle the magic," she wrote. I replied carefully, "Happy to attend and make the slideshow, but I'm not sponsoring or financially responsible for the event." Mom answered, "Why does everything have to sound so formal?" Melissa sent a heart emoji. Then, she changed the subject. I saved the exchange. That was not paranoia. It was habit. In my business, warm conversations did not replace written agreements. People remembered promises differently when invoices arrived. Still, I did not expect my own family to turn that lesson into protection. Northline events started in the spare bedroom of my apartment, with 1 folding desk, an old laptop, and 2 clients who paid late. I had left a hospitality company after 6 years of watching executives take credit for the women who kept their events from collapsing. I knew contracts. I knew vendor insurance, payment schedules, cancellation clauses, and card authorizations. I knew that a private dining room was not reserved with a smile and a family promise. Someone signed, someone guaranteed the balance. For 3 years, I worked weekends and slept with my phone beside my pillow. By the 7th year, Northline had 12 employees and contracts with hospitals, universities, and national charities. We had just secured a multi-year conference account that would change the company's future. My parents knew none of that. Not because I was ashamed, but because I had learned what happened when I shared good news. When I signed my first major client, Mom asked whether I could use the extra money to help Melissa launch her consultancy. When I hired my 5th employee, Dad joked that I was getting a little full of myself. When a local business journal profiled Northline, Melissa reposted the article with the caption, "So proud of my sister for turning her party planning hobby into something real." After that, I stopped explaining. I drove a 7-year-old Honda. I lived in a comfortable condo without posting photographs. I invested in the company and kept my personal life quiet. My family interpreted privacy as modest success. That assumption made them bold. 3 weeks before the anniversary, Melissa texted me asking for Northline's logo. "What for?" I asked. "The slideshow." Mom wants a little section about both daughters. I told her I would provide the photographs myself and that she did not have permission to use the company branding. She replied, "Relax. It's family, not a lawsuit." 2 days later, a digital guest itinerary arrived in my inbox. At the bottom, beneath the restaurant address, was Northline's logo. Under it were the words, "Anniversary Celebration, presented with love by Claire Harper." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I saved the file, forwarded it to my business account, and called Melissa. She did not answer. What she did not know was that the logo was not the only thing I had begun documenting. And by then, I was no longer wondering whether my family expected me to help. I was wondering what they had already promised in my name. Aunt Evelyn was the only person in my family who asked a question and waited for the honest answer. She was Dad's older sister, 65, retired after 30 years as an elementary school principal, and impossible to charm with half-truths. 3 weeks before the anniversary, I sat across from her at her kitchen table, with a mug of coffee growing cold between my hands. I showed her the digital itinerary, with Northline's logo at the bottom. Evelyn put on her reading glasses. "Did you approve this?" "No." "Did you agree to pay for anything?" "No." "Then why are you speaking like you need permission to be concerned?" I told her about Mom asking who was responsible for a private dining balance. I told her Melissa had expanded the guest list and stopped answering direct questions. I admitted I did not want to create a fight before my parents' anniversary. Evelyn leaned back. "Claire, generosity is something you choose. What they keep asking from you is surrender." She tapped the itinerary. "Go to the dinner if you want to celebrate your parents, but go as their daughter, not as their event planner, not as their emergency account." Then she told me Dad had complained about retirement expenses. His pension covered the basics, but he and Mom had not adjusted their lifestyle. Melissa had also asked Evelyn for a loan. Her image consulting business was struggling. She owed money to several vendors and claimed one major contract would solve everything. Evelyn had refused. "That dinner is not just about romance," she said. "Your mother wants everyone to think life is perfect, and Melissa wants potential clients to see her creating something impressive." Before I left, Evelyn asked one final question. "If Melissa is hosting, why has nobody asked what anniversary gift you plan to bring?" I stood in her hallway holding my coat, because they had already chosen my gift for me. Evelyn promised to attend and stay close. She told me to preserve every message, stop answering planning questions, and let the truth show how far they were willing to go. For the first time, I did not feel dramatic. I felt warned. During the final 10 days, the dinner grew larger and more expensive with every message. Mom sent a formal invitation on cream-colored cardstock. Melissa was listed as the celebration host. The menu included 5 courses, premium wine, custom flowers, and a private room. There were 28 guests. I called Mom. "I thought this was supposed to be intimate." "These are people who matter," she replied. "Who is paying?" She sighed. "Melissa handled everything. Must you reduce our anniversary to money?" "I'm asking because my company's logo is being used." "Oh, Claire. It's a family celebration, not corporate espionage." The next day, Melissa called me from her car. Her voice was unusually sweet. "My successful sister," she said. "Can you arrive an hour early? We need help with the projector, seating cards, and vendor check-in." "No, I'll bring the slideshow and arrive at 6:30. You know Mom feels like you're not excited for them." "I'm attending as her daughter. I'm not working the event." Her laugh had no warmth. "Fine. Bring a Northline business card in case the restaurant needs to adjust the projector deposit." "No, I was joking." I saved a screenshot after the call. On the anniversary night, I wore a navy dress, low heels, and my grandmother's pearl earrings. I arrived at Bellwether House, carrying only my laptop bag and a wrapped photo album. The room looked beautiful. Tall candles reflected in the windows. Gold place cards rested beside folded napkins. Family photographs covered the wall behind the head table. Then I saw the menus. Northline's logo appeared at the bottom of every one. A server greeted me by name. "Ms. Harper, your sister said you would handle final approval after dessert." "I won't," I said. "I'm here as a guest." Before she could respond, Melissa appeared and took my arm. "There you are. she said brightly. Mom needs you near the back until the slideshow. I noticed two women I did not recognize. Melissa introduced them as owners of a luxury real estate group she hoped to sign as clients. That was when I understood why the room had to look expensive. She was using my company's name to make herself look established. Aunt Evelyn arrived and followed my gaze to the menus. "You were right to save everything," she whispered. As dinner began, Mom asked me to fix the seating chart. Dad sent me to find a missing guest. Melissa tried to hand me the microphone schedule. I refused each request politely. Her smile tightened every time. When the first course arrived, I saw Elena Ruiz, the restaurant manager, standing near the kitchen doors with a folder pressed against her side. She recognized me. And when our eyes met, her expression told me this was no longer just about a logo. Someone had placed my name where it did not belong. By the time dessert plates were cleared, I had refused 6 different requests to help. I did not adjust the lights, speak to the florist, or fix Melissa's video when it failed to play. Each time, she smiled as if I were embarrassing her on purpose. "Wow," she murmured. "You really can't do one nice thing without making a point." I brought the slideshow I promised. Her eyes hardened, but Dad tapped a spoon against his glass before she could answer. The room settled. He stood beside Mom at the head table, while a photograph from their wedding day filled the screen. For a few minutes, his speech was gentle. Then Mom thanked Melissa for planning every perfect detail. Everyone applauded. Melissa pressed a hand to her chest and looked modest. Then Mom turned toward me. "And Claire wanted to give us something we would remember forever." My stomach tightened. She raised her glass. "This entire dinner is her anniversary gift to us." Applause broke out again. Relatives smiled and lifted their glasses. One of Melissa's prospective clients said, "That's incredibly generous." Mom had not asked me. She had announced it, counting on the room to make refusal impossible. I stood. I didn't agree to pay for this dinner. The applause died unevenly. Mom laughed as if I had made an awkward joke. "Claire, not tonight. I'm serious." Dad's face hardened. "Don't start a scene." "I'm correcting what Mom just told everyone." Melissa rose. "Claire, we discussed this." "When?" "You said you wanted to do something special." "I said I would make the slideshow." Mom leaned toward me, still wearing her public smile. "People have already eaten. Do not humiliate your father over money you can afford." Aunt Evelyn placed her napkin beside her plate. "Linda, when did Claire agree to cover the dinner? This does not concern you. It concerns everyone you just asked to applaud her." Dad pushed back his chair. "Claire has always been generous. We assumed she would be happy to do this." "You assumed. You never asked." Melissa crossed her arms. "You own an events company. This is barely anything to you." One of her prospective clients looked down at Northline's logo printed on the menu. Around me, forks rested against china, and candle flames moved in the air from the open door. I could feel every person deciding whether to look at me or away. The wedding photograph still glowed behind my parents, turning their public tribute into a backdrop for the lie. Then a server placed a black leather folder beside my hand. "Ms. Harper, the remaining balance is $12,600. No one moved. Mom spoke first. "Just handle it, Claire. We can discuss this privately." Relatives began reaching for coats. Dad motioned toward the lobby as if the evening were over. Melissa leaned close. "If you refuse now, everyone will remember how selfish you were on their 40th anniversary." For years, that would have worked. I would have paid and cried alone later, but I finally understood that keeping peace had always meant protecting them from the consequences of hurting me. "I need the manager," I told the server. Melissa's expression shifted, only slightly, but I saw it. Elena Ruiz appeared with the navy folder beneath her arm. "Miss Harper, may I speak with you in my office?" Dad stepped forward. "Is that necessary?" "Yes," Elena said. "It is." Her office was small and neat, with 2 monitors and the muffled clatter of dishes through the wall. Elena closed the door. "You and Northline Events are not responsible for this balance." My hands stayed steady. "Who signed?" She opened the folder and turned the first page toward me. Melissa Harper. Her personal email. Her phone number. Her electronic signature. She had paid a $1,500 deposit with her own card and guaranteed the balance under Bellwether House's private event agreement. 3 days later, she asked the restaurant to list Northline Events as the responsible billing party. Staff requested written authorization. Melissa never provided it. Instead, she wrote, "Claire owns Northline and will approve everything after dessert. Please do not mention the total before then. It is meant to be a surprise family gift." My skin went cold. Then Elena showed me another message. "Claire always says no in advance, but she pays once family is watching. Her professional reputation matters too much for her to argue in a crowded room." I read it twice. The words hurt because they were accurate about who I had been. I had paid to prevent scenes. I had protected people who would never have protected me. Melissa had not mistaken my habits. She had counted on them. She had studied the part of me she believed she could exploit. "She also requested your logo," Elena said. "She claimed you approved the sponsorship." I didn't. That is why I flagged the account and preserved the correspondence. I forwarded every document to my business email and sent copies to Evelyn. The pain was sharper than anger. They had planned the announcement, the applause, the timing of the bill, even my fear of looking cruel. They believed the room would trap me. Instead, they had left everything in writing. "Can the reservation holder leave without arranging payment?" I asked. "No? Then please bring everyone back into the private room." Elena studied my face. "Are you certain?" "Yes." I texted Evelyn. "Keep them here." "I'm coming back with the contract." Her answer arrived immediately, already by the elevators. I gathered the signed agreement and printed emails into one folder. When I opened the office door, Melissa was standing at the end of the hallway. She looked at the papers in my hand. For the first time that evening, my sister stopped pretending she was surprised. When I walked back into the private dining room, no one was wearing a coat anymore. Aunt Evelyn stood beside the doors with her arms folded. Elena followed me carrying the original banquet file. My parents were near the head table, while Melissa remained by the hallway, staring at the papers in my hand. Dad spoke first. "This has gone far enough." "No," I said. "It has gone exactly as far as you planned." I placed the signed agreement on the table beneath the glowing wedding photograph. The remaining guests gathered slowly. Some looked irritated that they had been called back. Others looked uncomfortable. Melissa's 2 prospective clients stood near the windows, still holding their handbags. Mom lowered her voice. "Claire, whatever the restaurant told you, we can settle this privately. You made it public when you announced that I was paying. That was supposed to be a loving gesture. A gift requires the giver's consent." Melissa moved closer. "I told them you would cover it because you always cover things. I didn't think you would turn it into this." Elena opened the folder. "For clarity," she said, "the reservation was made by Melissa Harper. She signed the private event agreement, provided the deposit, selected the menu, and guaranteed payment." The room became completely still. Melissa looked at Elena. "That isn't the whole story." "It is the contract," Elena replied. Dad pointed at me. "Your sister may have signed it, but everyone understood that you were contributing." I wrote in the family group chat that I was not sponsoring the event. Mom shook her head. "You send formal messages about everything. We thought you were being cautious." I took out my phone and opened the saved exchange. I said, "I'm not sponsoring or financially responsible for the event." Melissa answered with a heart and changed the subject. A cousin near the door looked down. Melissa's face flushed. "You knew Mom wanted a beautiful anniversary." "Yes. And you knew we couldn't afford a place like this." "No, you never told me that. You told everyone you had handled it." Dad's voice rose. "Family should not need written permission to help each other." "Help is requested," I said. "This was arranged." I placed the printed email beside the contract. Melissa saw the page and stopped speaking. I read her message aloud. "Please do not discuss the final total with Claire before dessert. She always says no in advance, but she pays once the family is already watching." Someone inhaled sharply behind me. Mom reached for the paper. That could be taken out of context. I slid another page forward. "This one says you would announce the dinner as my gift, so refusing would make me look heartless." Evelyn looked directly at my mother. "Did you know about that?" Mom's eyes moved from Evelyn to Dad. "We were trying to avoid an argument." No, I said. You were trying to make refusal more painful than payment. Melissa's prospective clients were reading the Northline logo on the menus. One of them, a woman named Dana, lifted hers. Was this sponsorship authorized? No, I said. Melissa turned toward her. It was a family misunderstanding. Claire owns the company. That does not make the company yours, Dana replied. Elena confirmed that Melissa had requested the logo and claimed Northline would approve the account after dessert. Melissa's confidence cracked. I was under pressure, she said. My business is struggling, and Mom wanted this night to be perfect. Those clients were here. I needed the event to look professional. So you used my company to make yourself look successful. I was going to explain afterward. After I paid. Dad stepped between us. Enough. Claire, just cover the balance tonight. Melissa can reimburse you. I looked at him. There had been a time when hearing disappointment in his voice could change every decision I made. I would have paid $12,600 just to avoid being called selfish. But standing there, I no longer felt like the difficult daughter. I felt like the only person in the room willing to say what had happened. This is not about whether I have the money, I said. It is about whether you had the right to spend it. Mom's eyes filled with tears. You would let your sister be humiliated in front of everyone? She planned my humiliation in front of everyone, Melissa whispered. You're destroying my reputation. No, I am refusing to protect it with a lie. Then I looked at all three of them. I will not pay for a celebration built on deception, and I will not rescue people who tried to shame me into silence. No one answered. The truth did not need volume. It had signatures, timestamps, and a name on the reservation. Elena turned toward Melissa. We need you to remain here and arrange the outstanding payment. Melissa looked at Dad. Dad looked at Mom. Mom looked at me. For once, no one had a problem they could place in my hands. I picked up my purse and the photo album I had brought as their real gift. Mom saw it. You're taking that too? Yes. Why? Because it was made with love. And tonight, you treated love like a payment method. Evelyn joined me at the door. As we walked through the lobby, I heard Dad asking Elena whether the charge could be divided between multiple cards. I did not turn around. The consequences began before I reached the parking lot. Bellwether House applied Melissa's $1,500 deposit and charged the amount permitted under her card authorization. The remaining balance was invoiced to her under the agreement she had signed. My parents eventually used money they had saved for a European anniversary trip to help her settle it. The luxury vacation disappeared because they had tried to create a luxury image using my name. The two prospective clients left without discussing a contract with Melissa. 3 days later, one of them sent me a brief email confirming that they would not be hiring her. I never asked them to walk away. They had seen enough themselves. Bellwether House also removed Melissa from its preferred private event list. At Northline, I met with our attorney. She sent Melissa and my parents a formal notice stating that they could not use our name, logo, or claimed sponsorship without written authorization. I also instructed my staff that any family request involving the company had to come directly through me. The extended family divided in predictable ways. Several cousins apologized for applauding Mom's announcement. One aunt admitted she had assumed I volunteered because my parents spoke as though it were already settled. Others said nothing. Dad told relatives I had turned a billing confusion into a public attack. Evelyn corrected him every time. You announced Claire's money publicly, she said. She corrected the lie in the same room. I expected relief to feel lighter than it did. Instead, I felt grief. Winning did not erase the fact that my mother had helped design the pressure. It did not erase Melissa's certainty that I could be manipulated. It did not erase Dad's instinct to protect her by demanding more from me. By the end of the week, my phone held 23 unread messages. None began with an apology. They wanted me to call the restaurant, reassure the relatives, contact Melissa's lost clients, withdraw the legal notice, and attend the summer family gathering as though nothing had happened. They still believed the damage was mine to repair. They had not yet understood that the daughter who fixed everything was no longer available. Dad accused me of embarrassing the family. Mom sent childhood photographs and wrote, "Surely 40 years of love matters more than one bad evening." Melissa first denied that the emails meant what they clearly meant. Then she said she had been desperate. Finally, she asked me to reimburse half the bill because losing 2 clients was punishment enough. Not one of them said, "We plan to corner you." That was the sentence I needed to hear. For years, I had answered every accusation separately. I explained, defended, corrected, and offered evidence until I was exhausted. This time, with help from Aunt Evelyn and the therapist I had started seeing during Northline's growth, I wrote one response. I will not discuss the restaurant by phone. For the next 6 months, contact me only by email. I will not provide loans, event planning, reservations, signatures, or emergency payments. Northline's name may not be used without written permission. Any apology must acknowledge the plan without blaming me for exposing it. Mom replied within 9 minutes. This is cruel. Dad wrote, then don't expect to be included in family events. I stared at that sentence and felt the old panic rise. Exclusion had always been their strongest weapon. They would shut me out, wait for me to feel guilty, and then let me earn my way back by being useful. This time, I answered, I understand. Nothing else. I returned the spare key to my parents' house by certified mail. I removed myself from the shared family expense account I had been asked to monitor. I blocked their calls but left email open in case accountability ever replaced pressure. Evelyn invited me to Sunday dinner with 2 cousins who had apologized. I don't want to create sides, I told her. You are not creating sides, she said. You are choosing relationships where you are treated honestly. Her dining table was small. The food was simple. No one asked me to fix anything. When dessert arrived, my cousin handed me a plate before taking one for herself. That tiny gesture nearly made me cry. I had spent years believing love was measured by how much inconvenience I could absorb. At Evelyn's table, no one tested my loyalty. They simply made room for me, and the peace felt unfamiliar. 6 months later, my life was quieter. Northline expanded the conference contract we had worked toward for years. I promoted 2 employees and stopped carrying every crisis alone. Learning to delegate at work felt strangely connected to learning boundaries at home. Leadership was not the same as rescuing people before they faced consequences. My parents sent several apologies. Most were really requests for the discomfort to end. Then Mom wrote a longer email. She admitted she had known about Melissa's plan to announce the dinner as my gift. She said she told herself I would eventually agree because I could afford it. She admitted that protecting the family's image had mattered more to her than asking for my consent. It was the first honest thing she had written. I thanked her for acknowledging it, but I did not rush back. Accountability is a beginning, I replied. It is not automatic access. Melissa never apologized. She closed her failing consultancy and took a salaried marketing job. I heard through Evelyn that she was doing better with structure and fewer appearances to maintain. I was glad. Compassion did not require reopening the door. On Northline's 8th anniversary, I hosted a dinner for my employees, Evelyn, and the friends and cousins who had stood beside me. I chose the restaurant. I approved the menu. I signed the agreement myself. There were no surprise announcements and no hidden expectations. When the bill arrived in a black leather folder, the server placed it beside me. For 1 second, I remembered Bellwether House. Then I smiled and paid it. Not because anyone had cornered me, not because a room was watching. I paid because I had chosen the people, the evening, and the gift. That difference was everything. The most important truth Elena revealed that night was not simply who made the reservation. It was how completely my family depended on my silence. Once I stopped protecting the illusion, their plan collapsed under its own paperwork. I did not become colder. I became clearer. Family should not require humiliation as proof of love. Generosity without consent is exploitation, no matter how beautifully it is presented. And walking away from a role that is destroying you is not selfish. Sometimes it is the first honest thing you do for yourself. If you have ever been treated like the dependable one who must always pay, fix, forgive, or stay quiet, share your experience in the comments. Subscribe for more stories about boundaries, truth, and choosing peace. For most of my life, I thought earning my place meant being useful. Now I know the right people do not hand you a bill for belonging.